despair. I just see it makes me feel as if, this country's going to get better. Now, I want to speak directly to the young men and women of color in this country, who, as Plan just so eloquently described, have witnessed too much violence and too much death. And too often, some of that violence has come from folks who were supposed to be serving and protecting you. I want you to know that you matter. I want you to know that your lives matter, that your dreams matter. And when I go home and I look at the faces of my daughters, Sasha and Malia, and I look at my nephews and nieces, I see limitless potential that deserves to flourish and thrive.
Yes.
And you should be able to learn and make mistakes and live a life of joy without having to worry about what's going to happen when you walk to the store or go for a jog or driving down the street or looking at some birds in a park.
That's right.
And so I hope that you also feel hopeful, even as you may feel angry, because you have the power to make things better, and you have helped to make the entire country feel as if this is something that's got to change. You've communicated a sense of urgency that is as powerful and as transformative as anything that I've seen in recent years. I want to acknowledge the folks in law enforcement that share the goals of reimagining policing, because there are folks out there who took their oath to serve your communities and your countries, have a tough job, and I know you're just as outraged about the tragedies in recent weeks as are many of the protesters. And so we're grateful for the vast majority of you who protect and serve. I've been heartened to see those in law enforcement who've recognized, let me march along with these protesters. Let me stand side by side and recognize that I want to be part of the solution. And who've shown restraint and volunteered and engaged and listened, because you're a vital part of the conversation. And change is going to require everybody's participation.
Everyone.
Now, when I was in office, as was mentioned, I created a task force on 21st century policing.
Okay, what we were listening to is President Barack Obama, the former president of the United States. You're locked in with me, BB Davis, right here on the live stream 1021 official YouTube channel, and this is live remote. We hope that everyone has been well and in wonderful spirits, more than not, for you and yours. This is a very uncertain time in our lifetime, dealing with the COVID, dealing with racial issues, and a country, United States, more collective than the divisions. And even with the divisions still there that are in play because of their insecurity of the beautiful hue. Love wins, common sense wins, intelligence wins, self-assuredness wins, self-love wins. It wins. More than not. But through all the good, there is still the bad. But you must think smart after the emotions and then start putting things in play. Legislation, changes, and you can do that. So it feels good to hear the former president of the United States, President Barack Obama, speak with a healing tone, with intelligence, and speaking to our leaders of the world, the youth, and being more cohesive than divisive. And you're going to need that. So here's where we are. Okay, we're going to talk about voting.
Politics.
We're going to listen in some more with
participation versus
President
civil
Barack Obama
disobedience and direct action.
addressing the
This is
climate
not
of the country.
This is a both and. To bring about real change, we both have to highlight a problem and make people in power uncomfortable, but we also have to translate that into practical solutions and laws that can be implemented and we can monitor and make sure we're following up on. So, very quickly, let me just close with a couple of specific things. What can we do? Number one, we know there are specific evidence-based reforms that, if we put in place today, would build trust, save lives, would not show an increase in crime. Those are included in the 21st Century Policing Task Force report. You can find it on obama.org. Number two, a lot of mayors and local elected officials read and supported the task force report, but then there wasn't enough follow-through. So today I am urging every mayor in this country to review your use of force policies with members of your community and commit to report on planned reforms.
Exactly.
What are the specific steps you can take? And I should add, by the way, that the original task force report was done several years ago. Since that time, we've actually collected data, in part because we implemented some of these reform ideas. So we now have more information and more data as to what works. And there are organizations like Campaign Zero and Color of Change and others that are out there highlighting what the data shows, what works, what doesn't in terms of reducing incidents of police misconduct and violence. Let's go ahead and start implementing those. So we need mayors, county executives, others who are in positions of power to say this is a priority. This is a specific response. Number three, every city in this country should be a My Brother's Keeper community, because we have 250 cities, counties, tribal nations who are working to reduce the barriers and expand opportunity for boys and young men of color through programs and policy reforms and public-private partnerships. So go to our website, get working with that, because it can make a difference. And let me just close by saying this. I've heard some people say that you have a pandemic, then you have these protests. This reminds people of the 60s and the chaos and the discord and distrust throughout the country. I have to tell you, although I was very young when you had riots and protests and assassinations and discord back in the 60s, I know enough about that history to say there is something different here.
I was 71 here.
You look at those protests.
Different.
And that was a far more representative cross-section of America
Oh, yes.
out on the streets, peacefully protesting.
Right.
And who felt moved to do something.
Right.
Because of the injustices that they had seen.
Right.
That didn't exist back in the 1960s, that kind of broad coalition. The fact that recent surveys have showed that despite some protests having then been marred by the actions of a tiny minority that engaged in violence, that despite, as usual, that got a lot of attention, a lot of focus, despite all that, a majority of Americans still think those protests were justified. That wouldn't have existed 30, 40, 50 years ago. There is a change in mindset that's taking place, a greater recognition that we can do better. And that is not as a consequence of speeches by politicians. That's not the result of,
I'm moving closer in the park
news
here.
articles. That's a direct result of the activities and organizing and mobilization and engagement of so many young people across the country
Exactly.
who put themselves out on the line to make a difference. And so I just have to say thank you to them.
Oh, yes.
For helping to bring about this moment and just make sure that we
and bring
now follow
about
through.
the
Because
change.
at some point,
Bring about the
attention
change.
moves away. At some point, protests start to be
Still alive.
and it's very important for us to take the momentum that has been created as a society, as a country, and say, let's use this to finally have an impact. All right? Thank you, everybody. Proud of you guys. And I know that we're going to be hearing from a bunch of people who have been on the front lines on this and know a lot more than I do about it. Proud of you.
Thank you, Mr. President. For everyone that's watching, the president.
All right, so a very,
Okay, so
hopeful, very confident statement.
we have a uplifting, intelligent communication from President Barack Obama. The uplift for letting the youth know and those who are involved for the greater good of that you're taking the right path. The path of promise of being radical, a rebel, but not in a destructive way, but in a way that is going to heal the nation, a way that's going to move far from what used to be and bring in more of what should be for humanity. Having humanity, having compassion, doing the checks and balances, making sure that you hold people accountable for wrongdoings, making sure you hold the different branches of any service out there that's supposed to protect and serve, environment for you to work and thrive in and just move through life in, that your rights is respected and that there will be consequences for those who don't have the respect of person despite their hue, despite their gender, their nationality, the ethnicity, the race, gender, all of that. And even through as much as that good, you still will have those who are your keeper. That cuts so deep. I'm very proud to be a part of organizations and just being around people despite the organizations of being a keeper. I'm a keeper of history. I'm a keeper of records. I'm a keeper, proud activist for change and doing it in a way where you sit down with others, even in opposition, to come to something that is going to elevate the place for which you stand, the United States of America and the world, showing compassion and dignity and intelligence instead of the ignorance and the fear because the color of someone's skin, their ethnicity, you know what I mean. Now, when I last left you, the confirms have come in for the charges for the murder of Sir George Floyd. This is a live stream. This one will be uploaded, but it's not a live stream where you can chat in. We hope that with this amount of information that has been given to the public, the murderer went from third degree to second degree. Confirmed. Confirmed. The other officers that needed to be held to accountability have been charged in this crime, in this murder. And now more work begins. The conversations, changing legislation, not the key persons trying this case through the public, making sure and ensuring nothing goes wrong when it goes to trial. Will this be an immediate trial? No. This trial is set to be coming in the coming months. We need everyone who is passionate about it now to be just as passionate to the very end. And you can do that, again, by coming into the fold. Come into the fold and be a part of the change and not a part of the disruption or the chaos. It is going to be a long road, but I'm very sure the family and the people who are highly spirited to what has happened, not only with this murder, but with any other unjust, that we'll start to see maybe some cases reopen. We'll start to see, God forbid, but it is a reality for anything else that may come around, that people may take a step back and be like, is this really worth me getting a second degree charge? Because this sign of the times that we're living in with these young adults and others, they are not going to take it. And it is a different climate in the age of information. I am proud that even if you were never highly spirited about injustices and that you are now, that is a good thing. That is a great thing. That's a beautiful thing. That's a productive thing. Because it's not about the bragging rights of how long you've been woke, how long you've been conscious, how long you have been in service, how long you've been on the front lines, how long you've been that activist fight the power. As long as you start, it's when you start. And if you are and you're excited about being part of the culture for change, that is a great thing. If you are not bothered by the hue of people and you're just living your life, trying to do what you need to do and cohesive in this world, that's a good thing. The old ways will die out. Not totally dead, but die out. And it is for the keepers of the flames, the passing of the torches, to make people accountable for what they need to be accountable. And none of us, again, as I said before in the live stream, arrived. You've arrived in whatever your goals are. Whatever your goals are. But arrived against injustice, it will come to everyone in a direct, indirect way. We will be back doing a lot more discussions on this. You make sure that you stay locked into your preferred news source. Thank you so much for locking in. Got to get back and check all my people. Everybody is good, and it's a joyous vibration. Now got a lot of lights and shadows in here, but it's a joyous vibration from what we've heard. And then now you have to see it through. You have to see what happens. This has to go before a jury. What would be the amount of time for second degree? Off the top of my head, I think that's about 25 years. Is there on the table for first degree? They will, as they've stated, as you will see if you continue to look at the news sources, they will see, as more evidence come in, as they look at the evidence and all of that, what could elevate from second to possibly what could elevate to first degree. But we definitely are moving in the right direction. It was definitely great hearing from President Barack Obama. Presidential and healing and not divisive. This is what makes someone suitable and honorable to be in the office of the president, because you are the people's president, not a certain set of people, but the people's president, where you should be calling for a lot of healing. You should be calling for healing. You should be calling for people to be accountable. Well, that's all we have here. I'm going to take a break from this because we'll be back on it pretty much all evening, getting the next sets of coverages happening. And I'm going to listen to a little bit of jazz. We have the great late Al Jarreau. This is Sambasa. I love it. He is so missed. So I'm going to be in my zen here doing some more essential runs. Wherever you are, be safe. Make sure you have your gloves, your mask, your eyewear, protective gear. Have a sunny disposition, but also look out for your surroundings and then still be that citizen journalist to look out for others. Keep those cameras rolling. And I still say to everyone, apps that you can do without, replace them with 2 apps of a LiveStream app on your phones, because you never know when you're going to need it or when someone else is going to need it, and it can serve you well. Be well, everyone. Stay locked in for more coverage. Be safe out there. And power to the people, all people who want to live in more harmony and unity. No matter what your beautiful hue is. Thanks for locking in, everyone, and more to come. Peace and love.